The frontier didn't forgive mistakes. Out there, beyond the edges of civilization, men either learned fast or died faster. While today's survival enthusiasts practice building friction fires and weaving shelters from paracord, the real old-timers, the ones who actually lived in the wild year-round, knew techniques that would make a modern prepper's head spin. These weren't weekend warriors testing out gear from REI. These were men who spent months alone in territories that would kill you 6 different ways before breakfast. They developed skills born from necessity, refined through failure, and passed down only to those tough enough to survive the learning process. Most of this knowledge is gone now, buried with the last of the long hunters, the voyageurs, and the backwoodsmen who carved out existence in places that still don't have cell service. But some of it remains, hidden in old journals, half remembered by elderly outdoorsmen and practiced by a handful of diehards who refuse to let the old ways die completely. 1. Reading Weather from Animal Entrails and Bone Marrow. Before meteorologists and weather apps, frontiersmen predicted deadly weather shifts using animal organs. When a hunter killed a deer or elk, he studied it. Fat deposits told him how harsh winter would be. A deer with countable ribs meant mild weather. One packed with back fat? Brace for hell. Old-time hunters split open leg bones and examined marrow. Thick, white, crystalline marrow meant severe cold approaching. Loose, pink, watery marrow suggested mild winter. Some claimed they could predict weather weeks in advance just by studying bone marrow from their kills. The spleen was another indicator. Long and thin meant long winter. Short and thick meant brief cold. The science is sound. Animals respond to environmental cues we can't detect. Barometric pressure, temperature shifts, forage variations. Their bodies prepare accordingly. By reading these preparations, hunters borrowed the animal's prediction abilities. A deer's body knew what was coming before any human could sense it, and smart hunters learned to read those signs like a book. Some frontiersmen even examined the thickness of deer hide itself. Extra thick hide meant the animal had prepared for harsh conditions. The texture of the fat mattered too. Hard, white fat indicated better preparation than soft, yellowish fat. Today, this skill is extinct. Most hunters wouldn't think twice about organ appearance beyond disease. The knowledge has vanished with the men who relied on it. Could you learn it now? Maybe, after years of observation most modern folks don't have patience for. The old-timers learned it because their lives depended on accurate weather prediction. We check our phones instead and trust algorithms over animal wisdom. 2. Crafting emergency rope from rawhide and sinew. Rope today is cheap and available everywhere, but 100 miles from civilization, running out could mean death. Mountain men knew how to make rope from any animal they killed. Rawhide rope started with fresh hide. You stretched it tight and cut it spiral, creating one continuous strip. Keep width consistent. Too thick won't flex, too thin snaps under load. Once cut, anchor one end and pull until your shoulders burn. As it dried under tension, rawhide became incredibly strong. The challenge was wetness. Rawhide stretched when soaked, shrank when drying. Smart travelers loosened rawhide knots before camp if rain threatened. Sinew was harder to harvest but more versatile. It came from along the spine. You separated these long tendons, laid them flat and dried them completely, then shredded them into individual fibers. To make sinew thread, you chewed the fibers to soften them. Saliva broke down the structure enough to make them pliable, then twist them together, adding new fibers continuously. This took time. A bowstring might take hours, but the result was incredibly strong thread that handled tension, held knots, and worked when damp, unlike rawhide. Today, nobody makes rope from dead animals. Synthetic materials are better, but understanding this shows how resourceful old-timers had to be. Nothing wasted, everything multi-purpose. 3. Preserving meat using live-fire smoking pits. Everyone knows jerky, thin strips dried until leather hard. Except that's not how frontiersmen preserved large quantities of meat, especially in humid climates or when they had hundreds of pounds to process before it rotted. They used smoking pits. You dug a pit 3 feet deep, 4 feet across. At one end, a smaller fire pit connected by an underground channel. The fire pit burned hard wood to coals, creating dense smoke without excessive heat. You built a tripod over the main pit using green wood. From this, you suspended racks with meat chunks, 2 to 3 inches thick. Cover everything with hides or bark, sealing it except for the smoke channel. This took all day or longer. Monitor the fire constantly, maintain smoke but prevent flames, turn the meat every few hours. The result was dark brown to black meat that lasted 6 months or more. The trick was getting it right. Undersmoked developed mold. Oversmoked became too hard and sealed the outside before the inside dried, trapping rot. Modern smoking is completely different. Controlled temperature and humidity, added salts and cures. Old-style pit smoking was pure preservation through dehydration and smoke saturation. Understanding it meant a frontiersman could preserve an entire elk with nothing but a shovel, wood, and willingness to breathe smoke all day. 4. Building survival shelters using the debris hut method. Modern survival instructors love lean-tos. Quick, impressive-looking, easy to teach. Except lean-tos are garbage for real survival. Wind tunnels with almost no insulation that'll let you freeze while looking good on camera. Frontiersmen built debris huts. A proper one starts with a ridgepole, sturdy branch 7 to 8 feet long, propped at 45 degrees. Then lean dozens of branches against both sides, close together, 6 inches apart maximum. These ribs hold massive amounts of debris. Now pile on debris, not handfuls, armfuls, 2 to 3 feet thick on all sides. Dead leaves, pine needles, grass, moss, bark chunks, so thick that when compressed, it still maintains 18 inches of insulation. It looks like a compost heap. That's the point. All that dead plant material traps air, providing insulation. Inside, build a nest from the finest, driest debris. This creates a cocoon holding your body heat. The entrance must be barely large enough to crawl through, positioned downwind. Ideally blocked with a debris plug you pull in after yourself. Built correctly, a debris hut keeps you alive in temperatures that would kill you in a lean-to. Downsides, hours to build. You'll need what feels like an impossible amount of debris. More than you think, then double it, and it's claustrophobic. But claustrophobia doesn't kill you, cold does. 5. Emergency water location. Using plant and insect indicators. Finding water supposedly easy. Follow streams downhill. Look for green vegetation. Completely useless advice in arid terrain during high summer when the nearest permanent stream is 20 miles away. Frontiersmen watched specific plants. Cottonwoods meant water within 10 feet of the surface. Willows indicated even closer water. But the trick was understanding their health. Thriving cottonwood with thick leaves meant active water. Struggling one with yellowed leaves meant water too deep or too seasonal. Cattails were gold. Where they grew, surface water existed, or digging would find it. Insects helped. Bees and wasps need daily water. Bees flying straight lines during morning or evening headed to or from water. Following their flight path often led to springs invisible from a distance. Large ant colonies with well-traveled trails indicated water within reasonable distance. Mosquito clouds might just mean a puddle, but water-dependent insects meant reliable sources. Animal tracks converged on water. Fresh game trails heading downhill, showing recent use by multiple animals, were particularly reliable. Doves and pigeons require daily water. Seeing multiple flying one direction during morning or evening suggested water that way. Most reliable was often most subtle, soil color. Frontiersmen learned to spot slight color variations, indicating subsurface moisture. Darker soil, rock staining, or mineral deposits suggested underground water movement. No single indicator was guaranteed, but combining multiple indicators increased success dramatically. Cottonwoods plus bee activity plus converging trails. Worth digging. Today, this knowledge is nearly extinct. Modern hikers carry GPS marking water sources. Maps show every spring. Understanding how frontiersmen actually located water through careful observation shows the depth of wilderness knowledge they needed just to stay alive. 6. Creating emergency medicine from pine pitch and charcoal. Get cut in the wilderness today. Pull out a first aid kit. Get cut 200 years ago. Your options were limited to what you could make from surroundings. An infection could kill you as easily as bleeding out. Frontiersmen developed pine pitch salve. Fresh pitch, sticky amber resin from damaged pines, was antibacterial, formed waterproof seals, and protected wounds from dirt and infection. Making usable salve started with collecting fresh, soft pitch from recent tree damage. Heat it slowly over low coals until melted without letting it catch fire. While liquid, mix in rendered animal fat at 2-to-1 ratio of pitch to fat. The fat made pitch spreadable instead of impossibly sticky and helped it penetrate wounds. Some added powdered charcoal for drawing properties. Charcoal was the other key component, real wood charcoal created by burning hardwood under controlled conditions. Powdered charcoal mixed with water into paste could be packed into infected wounds. It drew out pus and foreign material, reduced swelling, often prevented sepsis. The combination treatment for serious wounds: clean with hot water, pack with charcoal paste, let it draw for hours, clean again, seal with pine pitch salve. Did this always work? Hell no. Plenty died from infected wounds despite treatment. But it improved survival rates compared to nothing, and that was all you could ask when the nearest doctor was 100 miles away. Modern medicine has made these obsolete for good reason, but understanding that pine pitch and charcoal were serious medical tools, not folk remedies but legitimate treatments, shows how deep wilderness knowledge had to run when your life depended on it. 7. Reading land navigation from tree growth and moss patterns. Everyone knows moss grows on the north side of trees, right? Except that's mostly bullshit. Moss grows where there's moisture and shade, might be north, might be south, might be all around. Frontiersmen who actually navigated by natural signs knew this was worthless. Real navigation was far more complex. Tree growth patterns in open areas often showed more branches on south sides due to more sunlight, but this only worked in clearings or forest edges. Dense forest trees grew straight up regardless of direction. The trick was understanding which trees to read. Lone trees on hilltops showed clearest directional growth. Evergreens were more reliable than deciduous trees. Bark patterns told stories. In areas with prevailing winds, bark was rougher and more weathered on the windward side. Trees at high elevations showed flagging, branches primarily on one side due to wind damage. Knowing prevailing wind direction let you use this for navigation. But here's what guides miss. Frontiersmen didn't just look at one tree. They looked at patterns across hundreds. One tree might be an outlier. A dozen showing similar patterns? Reliable data. The ultimate tool was combining multiple signs. Tree growth, lichen patterns, slope aspects, wind damage, sun and stars all worked together. No single sign was completely reliable. but 5 pointing the same direction gave confidence. Today we have GPS. The skill of reading navigation from trees and terrain has become a curiosity. The deep, intuitive understanding of reading an entire landscape for directional information, dying with the last generation who learned it from their grandfathers. 8. Emergency shelter heating with rock warming beds. Building fire inside a shelter is dangerous. Smoke, fire risk, oxygen depletion. So how did frontiersmen stay warm through brutal winter nights? They built warming beds. While building your shelter, dig a shallow trench 6 inches deep, 2 feet wide, as long as your body, right where you'll sleep. Build your fire outside, never inside, and heat fist-sized rocks until almost too hot to handle with green sticks. Not river rocks, they explode. Not sandstone, crumbles. Dense, non-porous rock, granite, basalt, hard limestone. Once rocks were thoroughly heated for hours, use sticks to roll them into the trench. Arrange them carefully for even heat distribution. Then bury them, not with dirt, with dry sand, dust, fine soil, or ash from the fire. This layer needs at least 3 to 4 inches thick. Too thin burns you, too thick wastes heat. On top, lay bark, then pine boughs, then your bedding. The result radiates warmth upward through insulation layers for hours. Done correctly, a warming bed keeps you comfortable through a full winter night. Rocks release heat slowly, warming your sleeping area without fire risk or depleting oxygen. The mistake is thinking this is quick. Heating rocks properly took hours. Arranging them correctly required experience. Getting burial depth right took trial and error, often literal error, leaving you with burns. This skill has vanished because modern sleeping bags keep you warm to negative temperatures. But the working knowledge of which rocks worked best, how hot to get them, how deep to bury them, fading into history, the bottom line. These 8 techniques represent just a fraction of disappearing knowledge. Why? We don't need it anymore, and honestly, that's mostly good. Modern technology keeps us safer and more capable than any frontiersman. But something is lost when this knowledge vanishes. Not just the techniques, but the mindset behind them. The deep observation, patient trial and error, and willingness to work with nature that these skills required. The frontier is gone. The men who lived by these techniques are gone. Soon the knowledge itself will be gone, preserved only in half-remembered journal entries and fading memories of elderly outdoorsmen. Was life harder? Absolutely. Would anyone sane choose it if given modern alternatives? Of course not. But those old-timers survived conditions that would kill most of us in days. They did it without GPS, without Gore-Tex, without emergency beacons. They did it with observation, experience, and brutal willingness to do whatever it took to make it through another night. That's worth remembering, even if we never have to do it ourselves. Thanks for watching Wild America. If you learned something today, hit that subscribe button, and remember, survival isn't about knowing every technique. It's about understanding the principles behind them. Learn those, and you might just make it through whatever the wild throws at you. Stay tough out there.